go. All right, all right. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Black Man's Group Empowerment Series. This is week number 2, and we had an awesome week last week. We had the sisters just giving us encouragement. Brothers need encouragement, and these sisters were so excited to come on and give. It was their week. It was Mother's Day week, and here where they were giving out. They were giving back to us. Isn't that just how the sisters do? And so we had a great time, and we are looking forward to a great time today. So we got our man, our guru, our founder, our brain trust, Ron Chisholm, Elder Ron Chisholm in the house. And so before we have him on, we want to just make a couple of announcements and do a couple of shout outs, and then we're going to let him loose. We're going to let him loose. Today's session is being hosted by longtime BMG member Malachi Carter. And so we'll be ready for that. And feel free to use the chat to ask questions and whatnot. But we do have some designated questions ahead of time. So we thank you for coming. We thank you for logging in. And let me get this PowerPoint going on here so we can talk a little bit about what BMG is doing. All right. So, all right. So just want to let you know, hey, the Black Man's Group is for you, brother. All right. We meet on Zoom monthly. This month we're doing something special. We're meeting every Thursday at 6:30 here with the same Zoom ID. But on the regular, we meet monthly. With things COVID opening up, we're looking to either do a hybrid or meet in person. So stay tuned with us, and we will get you the information on that. Once again, this is week 2 of our empowerment series, and we just feel like this is the season, really every season, to be empowered, to get the knowledge. And so, like we said, today we have Elder Ron Chisholm doing a talk related to undoing racism. And next week, we're going to have what is called the intergenerational chop up. That means all the generations of Black men, all the way from the teenagers, all the way to somebody 55 like me and even older, talking, not at each other, hollering at each other and talking about what your generation don't do or this sort of thing, but we're talking about collaborating, getting our skills in line so we can bless the community, so we can empower the community. That's what the Black Man Group is all about. So next Thursday, the 19th, that's going to be going on. Same Zoom line here, 6:30 to 8 p.m. All right, and then we'll be wrapping up with the Thursday, the 26th. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about our money. We're going to talk about how, look, it's a shame that our dollar in the Black community leaves the community on Friday night within 20 minutes of you getting paid. And what is Black wealth? What is personal wealth? How can we get this? How can we maintain it? And then how can we funnel it back into the Black community? So we got a panelist of people that are going to be involved in that. Then lastly, we have a father-child community breakfast. We're teaming up with the Moorhead Community Resource Center. And on Saturday, July 23rd from 9 to 11 at the Moorhead Community Resource Center over on East 10th Street, Indianapolis, we're going to have a free breakfast. Now, the emphasis is on male empowerment and fathers being involved in their children's education. And that's community work right there, because there's a school and several schools in every community. And if we strengthen the school system or let the school system see the Black man working with kids, not just when their kids are in trouble, but just congratulating their kids and being there and being a support to their kids. That's very important. So we got a lot of sponsors related to that. And if you want to be involved in that, you want to be a vendor or whatever, look us up, the Black Man's Group at gmail.com. So we are just so grateful for what we have. We got our elder, one of our BMG founders, Judge Jeffrey Gaither, on the line. Brother Greg Ellis couldn't make it, but he's our OG also, and we appreciate him. But right now, we're gonna have Judge Gaither jump on and just give us a salute because we thank him for all the work he's doing in the community, and he's a good friend with Ron, and we want him to just address Ron right now.
You're on mute, brother. Every time I'm around, you get on mute, man. What's with that? What's with all that, Judge? You do that all the time, man.
Yeah.
Am
I still muted?
We got you, brother.
No, you ain't muted now.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Well, first, let me just say this. Thank you, Brother Carter, for the invitation, man. It is always good to be part of the Black Man Group. Ron is.
Oh, we lost you again, Judge. You on mute. You keep jumping on mute.
mute.
Come on back.
Okay. All right. I'm okay. I see what. This. Okay. But what I'm saying is, it's good to see Ron again, because I was saying, you young brothers that are still wet behind the ears, you have no idea the force that Ron is. Ron Chisolm is the original Sweet Daddy Cool. I mean, the brother is so deep and heavy, and probably will never get the recognition that he truly deserves, because right now we're just now seeing the fruits of his work. I mean, this the pushback that the white community is now doing because of critical race theory and woke and all the foolishness that Ron DeSantis is doing is all directly and indirectly as a result of the work that the People's Institute for Survival and beyond has been putting in. And I appreciate everything that Rock and that Ron and Diana Dunn have done to raise the consciousness level of the community. Especially appreciative of the Black Man's Group, because it takes the kind of work that you guys, Brother Carter and Davenport and others, it takes that kind of work every day. Every day you got to do something. Every day, just take one step forward, because that really is our job, right? Is to carry the ball as far as we can before we hand it off to somebody else. And so I'm just thankful to be a part of anything that's making progress. So we have just a quick aside. We have turn on. Man, I'm doing good to talk. Every time I got a little messy, said turn on your camera. When I moved it, I'm on my phone. I tried to. I'm coming at you live right now from the WTLC studios, and
you good, Judge. You good, Judge.
I couldn't get the sign on in time, so I'm doing this on my phone, and so. And I got an iPhone 3, so I'm just really I don't have an iPhone 3, but I'm just saying, man. So I'm just doing the best I can. You're gonna have to get audio, and you're gonna have to imagine the video. But just a quick update. Juvenile court has been dissolved. Juvenile court no longer exists. It's been transformed into family court. So my jurisdiction now is not just juvenile cases and Chin's cases. Now I do adoptions, guardianships, child support, custody, and anything, protective orders. So anything having to do with the family. Now, what's not been said is the challenge is to continue racial equity and inclusion work within the confines of the family division. And it's real interesting how racial issues pop up all over the place. And especially if you're not looking to pay attention, next thing you know, we're on the short end of the stick of how cases are assigned, when mediators are assigned, and who gets extra outside work. And so the challenge for attorneys of color, for guardian litigants of color, for case managers and prosecutors and the like. Oh man, it is ongoing, it's every day, and it's constant. So we have to always stay vigilant. We have to always stay ready, so you don't have to get ready. If you're already, stay ready in fighting this oppression, fighting the sleeplessness in the community, and being ready to challenge and trying to interrupt racism wherever we find it. Now personally, I've been trying to, I try to stay active and stay current. I'm reading this book. I mean, it's a book that's been out for a while. It's called White Fragility. It's not, it's not a book that's just been out. It's been out for a while, but it's really interesting, and it correlates directly to the kind of work.
What's that called, Your Honor? I'm sorry for interrupting you. What's that called?
White Fragility.
Okay.
And it's man, I was about to say the author's name and then I forgot it. But if you just Google White Fragility, I went ahead and I get
Delgado,
it on.
that's the last name, Delgado.
There you go. Yeah, right, Delgado. I got it on books on tape. So, I just go to the public library on my phone and I downloaded the book and I get it for about 3 weeks. So I listen to it in my car or wherever I am. Very fascinating. I'm not going to say it's groundbreaking. I mean, it's really only interesting because it's somebody white who's talking about racism, but excuse me. She's saying everything that we already know. She's saying everything that we already know and have already discussed. And these are concepts that Ron has talked about for years. And we were talking about undoing racism and whatnot. So, let me just continue. Shout out to Ron, man. Thank you, man, for everything you've done. Thank you for the work that you've put in. Thank you for helping us lift up and raise the consciousness of all of everybody who's involved in this work. I'm sorry I can't stay on long. Actually, my smoking hot wife and I, we actually have a radio show, and we go on at 7:00. And the show was called Legally Speaking. No, it's called The Legal Word. I should know this. The Legal Word with attorney Kiki Gaither. It comes on every 7:00. Every Thursday at 7:00, 1310 a.m. The Light. You brothers should tune in because it's a fact-filled half-hour conversation about the law. As you know, my wife's an attorney, and we always have a variety of topics having to do with the law, and sometimes we agree, and sometimes, when we don't agree, she's wrong. So, but we have a full conversation about that, and we're about to go live in about 13 minutes. I'm in the station right now. So, Brother Carter, thank you for this opportunity. I'm always available for whatever you want to do.
Man, this is the Real Judge Show. You on there, and it's not showboating, it's not the clown stuff. It's the Real Judge Show. Please send us that link so we can promote that on our Facebook page and our other social media, because we got to get people on that. We got to get people tuned into that. Please, Judge.
And it's a call-in show, so you could call in and ask questions or make comments, and people do that. Last week's show we were talking about the coming decision of Roe versus Wade and what that means to the community and what the impact is, and we try to provide a little legal analysis and break it down for everybody to understand. We've been talking about the January 6th insurrection. We've had conversations about race. We've had conversations about all aspects of the law as it affects the community. So it's a powerful half-hour show. It's the hottest show in the universe because I bring it every time we do it, and my baby does as well. So we ain't playing no games. We ain't taking no names.
Hey,
so
that's free college right there. That's free
there you go.
Community college right there, people.
Because all we do was give out facts and information. That's all we do. That's the only way we know how to do it. So
I love that. Thank you again for taking the time, Judge Gaither. We appreciate what you're doing and your foundership of BMG. We really appreciate it, and thank you. And maybe you can pub what we're doing. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Hey,
and thanks for hey Ron, how you doing, man?
I'm gonna come up. I'm getting ready to do some traveling, man. I'm gonna come there and touch base with you.
Yeah, be sure. Let me know when you're in town, man. We could go hang out and have an adult beverage or whatever.
Yeah,
and one question, Your Honor, and
yes,
sir, before you continue, is this a local word that we can get as far as our legal issues? Is this local to the community here, or is it abroad, or how do we How do
Well,
we
I mean,
touch base with that?
if you can download the app 1310 the light. I mean, it's so
1310 the light.
anybody that has the app can access it, because when my son was living in Atlanta, he would listen to us there. So, we they can get us on the space shuttle. We not just nationwide, we're international. And we universal.
Black man in space. That's
All right.
fantastic. All right, Judge. We're gonna let you do your thing and tell the missus we said hello and thank you for her great work.
All right. Thank you, brothers. We'll be in touch.
Brother
All
Eric
right, Judge.
Davenport. Brother Eric
All right,
Davenport. God, just say a little something,
Yeah,
man.
I'm not. I don't have near the wind that my judge got over there, so I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I want to first say, Ron Chisolm is the founder of the People's Institute of Survival and Beyond, co-founder of that. That to me is huge in itself, that this man is that man. His heart is a grassroots organizer. I mean, that's what he really is. His desire to see us organized, people around him organized. He's a system challenger, a system dismantler, if you will, right? He challenges those systems, but he does it the right way. His work against systemic racism is nationwide. He's been in several cities. He's tried, in several locations through several platforms to deal with systemic racism nationally, which is huge. Not too many Black men can say that, and even the politicians who can haven't really been as effective as Ron has, because Ron is really grassroots. Ron is the founding reason why the Black Man's Group exists. Ron was with us at one time and said, look, all you brothers here, what y'all doing? Get together and make some power. Put yourselves together. And if it wasn't for Ron, we still would each be working in silos, right? And so Ron's desire to be a grassroots organizer still touched even us as a new group, right? And so Ron, what I love most about Ron, what he and I share most in common is that Ron is a straight shooter. Ron gonna tell you what's real, whether you like what he said or not. Then after he finds out you don't like what he said, Ron gonna repeat it to you, because he wanna make sure you heard what it was he said. And so for that, I love him immensely. He is a mentor to me. He is a guiding light for all of us, right? And then if you are challenged and you don't reach out to somebody who's already overcome that challenge, Ron, then you continue to be challenged. So I have to say, Ron, I love who you are. I have loved you from the time I met you. You are sincere. You are 100. And for that, the Black Man Group and Eric Davenport is forever indebted to you, my brother.
Thank you, my brother. It's good to be with you all, man. I'm excited about it. We meet periodically, I know, and but I'm excited there's not that many Black groups, even all over the country, that's talking about real changes, man. I mean, and so I just think y'all are key, and we need Black men right now even more so, because Black men ain't just being killed by the police. We get dealt with in every kind of form, and we need to be, and many Black women are getting dealt with we don't talk about that as much, but many Black women are being killed out there in so many different ways, and we got to lift that up as well. So it's good to be part of the group, man. Just spend some time with you all, and I'm looking forward to coming back to Indianapolis. And I miss brother. I talk with Brother Greg periodically, and I think he had some death in his family, why he couldn't be with us today. And our condolences to him and his family. And I think he's on his way back home right now. But I always want to lift him up, because he's the one who brought me in, made me understand a little bit about some of the dynamics in Indianapolis. And he would take me around to teach me different areas of the city and some of the dynamics. And so I'm grateful for him for bringing me around and exposing me to a lot of stuff. It reminds me of New Orleans in many ways, So thank Brother Ellis. I'm gonna talk with him more when I see him, So good to be here.
Well, thank you once again for joining us. I want to start with just like a few hot topics based on headlines we've seen over the past few months, or since the last time us as BMG Black Men's Group have seen you, Elder Ron. So first, critical race theory in schools. Like, what are your thoughts about that? I heard Judge Gaither mention that before.
I don't know, we know that's just a ploy to not for us to talk about racism and equity. It's something to throw us off, to activate the white population to try to stop the movement for equity. That's all it is. That's just something. They do so many things like this. It's a tactic. It's a strategy to get everybody's attention to start talking about critical, like we teach. And what that really means is that they're afraid that young white kids are going to get terrified because this time we're talking about white children and white people. But again, in the process, these folks are using their own white people because they ain't telling the truth to them either. So we don't spend a lot of time with that because when it ain't right, it ain't gonna last that long. We just gotta, understand what they're doing, and they've been doing that for years. So that's nothing new. It's just another ploy.
Just another ploy.
Yeah.
So speaking of, like, it seems they are radicalizing not only the language but moves to work against critical race theory, or even the potential of critical race theory finding its way in grade schools and then, of course, in post-secondary institutions. Now, what do you make of these book bannings that are happening?
The book what?
Yeah, book bannings like such as down in Tennessee, I think Texas as well, after they erected that law, you get the banning of Ruby Bridges, what do you call it, a memoir by Ruby Bridges, I think a children's book about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and now one recently that talks about the Holocaust. I think it's called Mouse, I believe. And so it just seems like what you're saying, another ploy to distract us from. Yes, go ahead.
Let me tell you what I do with that, Brother Malachi, is that when I think about Ruby Bridges, everybody on the Zoom know Ruby Bridges. And remember, there were 3 other young Black girls that integrated schools in the 1960s here in Louisiana. Ruby Bridges was one of them. Ruby Bridges got to be known because of the Norman Rockwell painting. So a white fellow who painted her on the front of the magazine called The Post, P-O-S-T. And he had a little 6-year-old Black girl in the front paper of this magazine, and she got to be known all over the world. But there were 3 other young Black girls. One of them that I'm working with right now in New Orleans, her name is Leona Tate. And if you Google this up, it'll be the Leona Tate Foundation. There were 4 Black girls, but they didn't get, the other 3 didn't get the recognition. But one of them in New Orleans that I work with right now, we just had, and the way I counteract that banning of books, that's what you asked, that's the question is, I can't get caught into that. I'm an organizer. So what I do about that? What I'm doing right now, we just had a grand opening in New Orleans, in the Ninth Ward in New Orleans, where the school that kept her out didn't want her there, that she had to go to this school being spat on by white people. She couldn't go into class, she had to sit in the hallway. Now the school that did that, she now owns the school. She owns the school. She asked our organization to be in partnership with her. With a grand opening last week, with over 300 some people there. It got known all over the country. People saw it, and we're going to have the first anti-racist university that's going to teach our babies at 6 years of age what is systemic racism. Because what's happening now, children, they got to wait to get higher education to learn about systemic racism when they're being challenged 6 years old. So we're going to start classes. We're going to have the first anti-racist university that's going to teach our babies how to understand systemic racism. And we're now in operation right now. We got the building, we're in partnership with the 3 other people, young girls that integrated the schools, and we're excited about it. And we're going to take that school and we're going to franchise it to New York, to Indianapolis, because the school system won't teach undoing racism. And we kept trying to get our curriculum in Columbia for them, but they didn't want to do it. So we said, we got tired of pushing for it. We said, let's start our own university. And the building has been renovated with $10 million. Google it. It's called the Leona Tate Foundation. and you see the People's Institute and the Leona Tate. It's going to be the first civil rights museums where nobody will ever forget what happened to those 4 young Black girls, including
Yes.
Ruby Bridges. So whether it's a book or not, this is going to be our book. That's how we counteract that.
That's right.
And we ain't playing with it. It's real. We're not talking about, we're not hypothetical. We talking about, we had grand opening yesterday. And the main speaker was Mark. I don't know if you know Mark Morial, but Mark Morial is the head of the Urban League in New York. He was the former mayor of New Orleans. He was the main speaker at that time. So I'm an organizer. That's how I counteract all these different things, because if I have to, well, they did this again and they're doing that. They've been doing that shit every day of our lives. It ain't nothing new, but it's something we got to do as we listen to that. We got to know how to do our work to lift our community up and use that kind of stuff as a mechanism to wake our community up. We got to use that kind of issue to wake, as an organizer, you can do that. See, that's an issue. You take an issue, you use the issue to not to react to the issue, but to use the issue to develop our minds in the community. That's what organizers do. That's what Black Men Group is, I understand, doing too. You're waking people up. And if you're not, you ought to be waking them up. Because there's no sense having a Black Man Group, you ain't waking the community up. Other Black people up. That's what you should be doing. And I'm assuming you're doing that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I don't know if y'all was taking inventory on all those points he was hitting on. Like, this is free game right now. We're getting free game in here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So I'm and let me know when y'all come over to Indianapolis with that school. I would gladly teach it. That I'm a teacher by trade. So
well, we need to, as I said earlier, Micah, I'm still asking this group that we've done presentation with, but I want to do a whole day workshop, and I know everybody's busy, got a lot of things to do. And we want to invite people, not only the Black men, Black women, white folks, anybody who's trying to make a difference can be invited, and young people, and spend a whole 5 or 6 hours today. Normally it's 3 days to do this, but we never got time to do it. But I know it'll make a difference because anytime you got Black folks who don't understand racism, and you think, well, I'm a Black man, I understand racism. We understand police killings. We understand bigotry. We understand discrimination. But in the Black community, we do not have a systemic analysis. Yet we always talk about fighting the man. We ain't got a man analysis. And I know that, we do this in Harlem. We do it in Soweto, South Africa, Johannesburg. We've done this training in Puerto Rico, in Japan. And people of color who talk about racism, we talk about it all day long, and we cannot define it. And long we can't define it, the reality is that nationally, the data shows right now, we in the Black community are still at the bottom, white folks are still at the top, and all the other groups go up and down the ladder wherever they can fit in, because some of them who come here don't want to be with Black folks anyway, because they've been told it before they got here. Until the police stop them one day, and then they get in the groove with us. But it takes them a minute to get there. They think, well, folks blacker than us talking about they don't want to be with Black people. Until the police stop them, they say, well, brother, I'm from Nigeria. I'm not from. Police say, we don't care where you're from. You get another Black person, let's get against the wall. And and many Latinos do the same thing too.
Yeah, I don't think it was Toni Morrison who said this. Yeah, don't quote me on this one, but famous Black woman writer once said the first word that immigrants learn as soon as they get off the boat is nigga, right?
Right.
So
right.
there is a truth. There is the truth to this understanding that we are not only seem to be in theory, but actually are at the bottom here in this country. So you spoke a lot about definitions of racism, and you talked about systemic racism, just so that we can speak with a common language here in this space.
That's correct.
What definition are you using of racism?
Yeah, but right now we ask the brothers and sisters on the Zoom now what racism is. The chance that we all would talk about our experience, which is real, but experience is not the same as a definition. So in a full workshop, we say the definition is race, prejudice, plus power equals racism. It's like an equation. And in a workshop, we break down what is race. And then you'd be surprised how people say with race, yet even though we all check a race, we can't define what the hell it is. We've done this for 43 years. Not only white folks, Black people, Latinos, and then that's the first part of the equation. Race, the second part is prejudice. If I say you're prejudiced, it sounds like I'm calling you racist. So we use that word prejudice and race interchangeably. But prejudice don't mean nothing but, prejudice means prejudgment. And you can have a good prejudgment and a bad prejudgment. My prejudgment for me is I tell my children, don't take candy from strangers. Now, it might be the best stranger in the world, but my experience with that, I'm making a prejudgment. I could be wrong, but I also could save my baby's life. That's all prejudice means. There's good prejudice and bad prejudice. And the third thing is power that we define in the workshop. Power, there's all kinds of power. There's positional power, you know, but for the definition we use to deal with racism, we say power is anyone who has legitimate access to institutions and systems sanctioned by the state. And when I say legitimate, that means legal. And the only people who got legal power are white people, period. We in the Black community, we got power, but we ain't got legal power because we don't have no relationship with the institutions. That's why white people get privilege. But they're getting used too, and they get dehumanized because the handful of white folks are using them to stay at the top. So they get misused as well. So that's the definition we use. And I normally wouldn't say it out like that because it can confuse people. But I think when you're talking to a group of Black folks, we should handle it because you get some Black folks want to fight that because we haven't been told what it is. Nobody's given a definition of what it is. We got it out of our experiences. But if you're going to deal with changes, you got to have a definition that one's know how to fight, and none that one's going to make you comfortable intellectually. You know, well, I got a definition. If the definition ain't going to help you to make changes, then you got another kind of definition. Webster got one, and somebody go in Webster and look for a definition, and Webster going to say some other kind of nonsense, and we go to because it's a racist dictionary, you know.
Yeah, and I would even argue that this is not like, I'm not disagreeing with you. I would even argue that Webster's even like, I guess like supports that definition of the power that is required to actually enable racism and make those kind of moves. Like if we think of Brian Stevenson, the civil rights law attorney, right, who will say that racism is, his definition is like the narrative of racial difference. And so thinking about that and like also prejudice plus power, I think of how race was made. Like the common understanding should be that we're all a part of one race, the human race, but how racism came about is you get people in political power, you get scientists who use language to justify that white people are superior and everyone else, especially Black people, are inferior. So the narrative being like, oh, now we have scientific proof, and I won't get too much into what you teach us in the training because this
you can't see. That's why very time I'll bring this up because of that discussion right there.
That's right.
And if people don't have historical context, it can confuse people. I wouldn't bring this. If we talk Black people, I wouldn't bring this up. I never bring the definition up. It's got to go through the whole training because people get pieces and bits, and then it gets confusing. Then it begins a debate. We take people through 3 days. That's why we do 3 days, because some people gonna think because they think we're talking about class versus race. But race keeps class in place. So you can't have and Webster did not talk about power. Webster supposed us getting along, and he talks about, not anyway. I don't even bring it up. He's talking about nonsense. But anyway, I want to stop there. But in a workshop, we'd elaborate on the definition. But for the Black community, it's imperative because our children are at stake. That's why we got to know it. You understand? We at stake. We got to know it. And if we're going to make real changes, anybody in the Black community got to have a definition that has to do with making changes and not intellectual kind of stimulation. So I would encourage, if I make sure that everybody, even in the Black men's group, And it don't have to be the one we're talking about, but is to be everyone who's a part of need to know what it is and make sure, because if everybody saying different things, that keeps the white people in power because we confuse. So I would just say you don't have to take this definition, but you sure need one. Because why even you got a black men's group? Because of racism. What the hell you need a black men's group for? If it wasn't because of racism. That's why it's got to be top of that. That's why it's got to open your head. Why have a black men's group? For what reason? Because the way black men have been done historically by race. So it needs to be a discussion about racism, and everything you do in your work has to do with dealing with racism, and not to be a do-gooder organization. Just want to help the poor community. You know, that's the same thing that white people do. It's like a missionary approach. And I ain't against missionary, but it's got to be more than that.
That's right. So for y'all who have been through the trainings, you kind of hear the language and codes in which we're speaking. But for the rest of y'all, that's a plug-in right there. Like, you need to attend an Undoing Racism workshop, the multi-day workshop through the People's Institute. So hopefully we'll get another one in rotation here before the year is up. So if what you're talking about is the organization side of things, the organizing side of things to fight against racism and to undo racism, like what does it take for anyone to jump into that? What if some were saying like, well, you know, that's up to the politicians and legislators if you're talking about power, or that's up to community leaders. I'm just an everyday person. I'm just an everyday guy. I'm a blue collar worker. Like, what power do I have to go about organizing and fight against racism?
Okay, this is exactly what I want to talk about. This is exactly what I want. I'm so glad you got, because all the questions about racism all those are good questions. But to me, is how do you organize to deal with them? So that's what I want to talk about now. The reason why we started the People's Institute in 1980, because I was organizing in New Orleans, bringing brothers and sisters together to deal with some of the injustice, you know, slum landlords, environmental racism. And for 3 years, I was just organized. I mean, we didn't start no training yet. We weren't doing training. We just was helping people. You know, we had like our own little black men. We didn't call it a black men's group, but it was an organization run by black people. And what happened when we go downtown to fight the powers to be, we wound up fighting each other. Now I didn't know what that was about. So I kept doing the same thing. And then what happened, I realized, because I was organizing, I didn't know what my job was. I just know I want to make a difference. I didn't know what an organizer was, but they called me an organizer. So I said, why do we fight each other? But I didn't. So I thought I need to go. I went and got some more training by a man named Saul Alinsky. He helped me to understand more effective on how to be more effective in organizing people. I learned about group dynamics. I learned about strategies. I learned about tactics, tactical research. But now this organization gave me a lot of skills. So I took those skills and went and continued to work in my community. But every time we would organize together and have meetings, we wound up fighting each other again. So even with the skills I got, something was missing. So then what I realized, if you give somebody some skills and they haven't dealt with their racism, they can become a skillful racist. I said, you know what? I gotta do something else. So that's when I met Dr. Jim Dunn in 1979. That's when we started the People's Institute. And the reason why I started this training, because racism stops your organizing. So that's why we did it. Every group, and I don't care if it's a black men's group or what group, racism, I don't care what you do to make a difference, racism will get in the way. And so that's why I did the training. Now, the last part I said on this, I'm an organizer. Now, what is an organizer? See, the black men group, you're an organizing entity. You're an organizing group, but you got to know what organizing is. Organizing is bringing people together for a purpose or an intent. That's what black men's group. You'll bring people together for a purpose and intent. Now, an organizer, to do organizing like y'all do, you need an organizer. Now, I'm an organizer. Some of y'all are organizers. Now, my job description as an organizer means I'm a motivator, I'm an educator, I'm a strategic agitator. I know how to piss people off. strategically. But when I do it, I don't run people away. I bring them in. I bring them in. I know how to bring people in. And then I know how to develop leadership. That's part of my job as an organizer. And here's a part that's key for me. A good organizer knows how to help the community to get a sense of their power. You can't empower people. Only the mighty above can empower somebody, but I can help somebody get a sense of their power. It's a different approach. And it's a beautiful experience when you do good work as a Black men's group. And because of your work, you see people in the community growing and getting awake and raising their consciousness. Then that's your indicator you're taking care of business. And with all the stuff you're doing, is your service you're giving got to be a way to wake people up because our community is sleeping. So that's what I do. I'm an organizer, and I give technical help to people. I develop, and here's the last piece. Like at the Institute, I'm retired. I retired in March, just before the pandemic. 43 years. Dr. Kimberly Richards, who was the Black woman who now took my place. What I'm so happy about is that if something happens to me today or tomorrow, the organization, the stuff that I taught, the ideology and philosophy will be carried on whether I'm here or not. So we don't have a dependency model, we have an interdependency model. It's a beautiful experience. Dependency model is like welfare. If I died and everything collapsed, that ain't no organization. If one person, like you lose your funding, everything collapses, that ain't no real organization. That's bullshit. So I'm glad right now that I can walk away. I meet people in the street in different cities say, Brother Chisolm, guess what? I just went to an undoing racism training. Man, you ought to go check it out. You might learn something from it. So when I hear that, it makes me feel good. That means our word is out there, whether we like it or not. So that's what organizing for me is crucial. That's why I do all this work I do, not just to be running my head, it's to strengthen my organizing, to reach my community, to develop leadership, to wake them up. That's what I'm doing. And when I do that, I'm getting woke up too. Because even when I do this work, I'm still sleeping, even at 80 years of age. So that if that answered that, I just want to let you know it. All those questions you asked about racism, the way you do it, all those questions is your team got to understand organizing. Otherwise, we just be responding to questions. And I like questions and I like forums and all of that. But I only do stuff now to get people to understand we got to know how to reach our community. And when we reach them, we got to know what to do with them. And when I see a human being that I work with, when I can see them, what I call the internal dynamics of leadership development, I see them going through a process from like this to like this to like this to like, let me tell you one month making thing. That's a process of, I call it internal dynamics of leadership development. It's a beautiful experience. And when you see that, that becomes your human indicator that you're doing work that's moving people. And that's what gives me a lot of hope.
That's great. I'm trying to imagine like that interdependency in our communities. And for some, they may feel like, okay, yeah, that's easy. Like we got that. Like I'm under someone's leadership, or I'm a leader in my community, and that community is predominantly Black, or maybe there's some allies here or there. But as soon as that brother or sister goes to the workplace, all that stuff seems to fizzle out or fizzle away. What's up with that, and how can we bring that into our workspaces, especially like if we're working in corporate America or a business or entity in which is, predominantly white?
Well, let me say this. If you're working in a predominantly white group as a Black person, if you ain't got a strong family, a strong community, that white culture will suck you up and take you out like high blood pressure, take people out. Because you, as a Black person, because of a white dominant culture, the white dominant culture in this country, job is to dehumanize us, make us believe we can go to the top like them. You understand? And I'm not saying we're not qualified to do it. But we don't understand as Black people, when we go into a white culture, we don't know. White culture is the thing that has made us sick. See, remember, as Black people, when our mothers was having us, our mothers got treated in a disrespectful way. Of course, things are a little bit better now. But historically, Black women, now we inside the mother's womb, when our mother get treated bad, we can feel inside how they treat our mom. It's a generational thing that's going on for years. I don't know the chemicals, all that stuff. And when we come out, then the system start treating us, calling us minority students. What the hell is a minority student? That's a less than student? Or we got the highest unemployment. Then they tell us that, we ain't nothing. So we begin to take that message in. That comes from the dominant white culture. Mm-hmm. So if you work so that's one part. You cannot work in a white culture as a staff person unless you got a network of brothers and sisters in that institution. And half the time they're fragmented, they ain't gonna work with you. And so that's number one. Now let's talk about community groups. Most community groups, nonprofits, grassroots, I'm not minimizing, they're important. They're running programs, but a lot of them are just programming our community. And what they're doing, they're operating on giving people services. People ain't poor because they lack services. People are poor because we lack power. So we keep giving services. Now remember, the community that we serve in is unconscious. And a lot of these services are creating dependency. So right now we want some more services. We want some more. And that's adding to our death. Now the Black community, with all of our oppression, we give life to people. That's why white people hang around us, because they get more life from us than they get from white culture. White culture don't give you life, it gives them privilege. Privilege don't give, you might be able to do some stuff, but it don't give you life. So white people get dehumanized too, because all they get is objects.
Right.
But the emotions, but they lose their humanity. It ain't just us who's humanity. So I'm telling you about when you go into white, anything dominant, and I don't care if you're a bad brother, sister, think you got it going on. If you go into white dominant culture, you're gonna let me tell you what's gonna happen. There's two things. The white dominant culture then told white people that they're superior. They then told us as Black folks we inferior by the message they've given us for life. And that's why we fight each other, have those internal fighting, because what's being played out, when I'm in a workshop, got 20 people and got white, Black, we tell all white folks in our workshop that they're racist, and they get emotional. Because they think I call them a bigot. I didn't call them a bigot. I say, you got privilege. But they don't understand that. And then what happens, let me tell you about our sickness. When we tell white people, they got Black folks in a room, all in a circle, I say, all white people are racist. White people are getting emotional. Black people would get out their damn seat and go to hugging the white people in the workshop. But they wasn't talking about you, Sally, because you're a good white. We didn't sit your ass down. This ain't up for the damn workshop. They're gonna be fine.
Maybe they need white people here. Like, what you?
No, but that's a sickness in us. I'm talking about the pathology now. That's why we do it. We don't even know we're doing it. We do that in a white institution. You get some brothers working there, and be feeling sorry for white people in there. Now they might not do just like that, go grab them, but they might wink to the white person at the water fountain. I know you're good. You ain't like the rest.
Right.
I've seen it. Now remember the dominant culture, which is white, in the country, every institution is controlled by the dominant culture. The dominance of it, they dictate everything we do. You can have an all Black group if you're not careful. You have a white agenda. Let me say that slowly again. You can be an all Black group, but ain't no white people in it. We Black to the bone. We Black. But because of the sickness in us, we'll operate in a white way. We'll mimic white people, even with a Black group. I'm telling you straight up, I'm not, I see that every day. It ain't like every night it's really happening. And then when you bring a group of Black people together to do anything, and you don't understand internalized oppression, them same brothers that you brought on board because of the pathology will turn on you. Turn on you. I've developed leadership, and I've seen it. And if I've developed them, but I didn't see you can't develop leadership without accountability. And community-based organizations, they're trying to they got a 501c3, they all got one, because that means they can get some money. And once they get that money, that little money, But see, a 501c3 ain't just to get money. At one time, before we had the 501c3, we were activists. And when we got the 501c3, we got deactivated. We stopped making noise. We stopped demonstrating. Because now you can't do that once you get a 501c3. You can't do that because you got to be careful. You can do it if you know how to do it. But I can't do nothing political now. That's a lot of bullshit. But that was set up in 1954. So right around Brown versus Education, they put the 501c3 together because before that, we were demonstrating all over this country, going to DC, mass mobilization. And when they put that 501c3, you saw the movement stop. Now you begin to see like Black Lives Matter, one of the bigger groups coming out now. But before that, you had much more, even before 1954. You got to understand that history. That's why they don't like you to call yourself an organizer, because organizer was the one that did it. They call you now job developers and all this other kind of stuff. And that's when we had lawyers at that time could do class action suits. Now lawyers have to do domestic stuff, and I'm not against that, do stuff for senior programs. And again, but there's a lot that goes on, but the toxic stuff in us, man. I work with poor white homeless people in Atlanta. Black homeless and white homeless. You know what the white homeless say? Starving to death. He said, I might be poor, at least I'm not black.
At least I'm not black, right?
But because he's been told inside his mother womb, he's superior.
Right.
We've been told we're inferior. That's why it ain't gonna come together. And then you bring a Latino in there, and you bring a Asian in there, and you bring an African in there. That's called ethnocentrism. You got all these, we say groups of color, but we don't get along with each other either. We get set around white people. Shit, we ain't together our damn self. So, that's just what the real deal is, bro.
Wow. That's heavy. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm trying to, I was trying to form a question. I feel like you answered it. You were talking about this pathological sickness of internalized racism for any given black person who is quick to defend whiteness.
Including Black Men's Group, because as Black Men Group, when we got a Black Men Group, we have to understand, because the way they have picked off Black men historically. We the worst people. They say we do the most crime. We do all this shit. So we have to come united. But what's good about y'all have found a way to stay together, even though y'all busy doing other things. There's something unique enough that y'all have kept, because most groups don't last this long. Black groups, because the internal stuff will eat you up. And I don't know how y'all got this going. There's a spiritual thing. I don't know, but I'm telling you, but I know we started, we had ground folks with this analysis. I can tell you that. When we started initially, most people that came to the workshop. Now, and I think, but that we call it internalized racial oppression. Internalized racial oppression, it breaks down in two ways. It's a multi-generational process, been going on for years. It breaks down in two ways. It tells white people they're superior, people of color we inferior. And some of the manifestations of internalized inferiority for people of color, not just black people, is colorism, light skin versus dark skin.
Right.
That's an issue that we don't talk about. It's issue now. You can have the same mom and daddy, one light, one dark. The light don't like the dog don't like the light, and the sister don't like none of us. So that stops you from organizing. And let me tell you something, it's in people's mind, whether even in the Black Men Group, it's there, you don't talk about it. But it can stop you from growing, because that's what it is. But that comes out of years of oppression, and because of kidnapping, because of rape, because of a whole lot of things, And then you got protectionism, colorism. There's another one called exaggerated visibility. If Black men have been invisibilized ever since we were born, we go to jail disproportionately. We get stopped by the police disproportionately. We get killed, when I say disproportionately, with a small number of the population. But disproportionately, we get dealt with bad in every aspect. So what it's saying to us, we're being invisibilized. So what we got to do is exaggerate our visibility. That's why we wear gold in our mouth and gold and shit and all that, and pants hanging down. I'm not saying I'm condoning that, but you can't get mad at young people because the system have done a job on us. Not only with young people, but you can be a brother or sister on a Zoom as a Black person over the Black university, and they might think you're the cleanup person. So you got to come to work as a professional with Gucci on and Michael Kors and
Right.
three-piece suits to say I'm in charge. You have
Hair
to
lined up every other
exaggerate.
day.
You have to exaggerate your visibility. We ain't got that kind of money to pay for that shit. But we saying we didn't got to overlook so much. That's one of the reasons for the Black Men's Group. We got to know why we are part of this stuff. Because the stronger we are as Black men, because they're singing you off one by one by one. There's a reason why we stay together.
Wow. So one thing I heard from you to
I know your
against,
time. You tell me when your time is up, so I don't.
oh, we got
your time.
until 8. So like we'll probably
Okay.
give this another 10 minutes, and then we want to get questions from everyone in the chat. So one thing I heard from that in terms of fighting against that kind of internalized racism as a Black person is one thing you said before was accountability. That's super important. What else can we do? Like if you can just empower us with
To fight against that?
Yes.
To fight against that. Well, first of all, here's what key. That internalized oppression, exaggerated visibility and all that stuff, that's been a process to dehumanize us. Keep that in mind now. And we look like humans, but there's been a process of dehumanization.
Yes.
That's why I will fight somebody over a piece of gold more than, I'll take your gold and put more value on that than you as a human being, because we've been dehumanized like that. And if I don't like me and you look like me, I damn sure don't like you. So I don't mind hurting you. Now, how you deal with that? You got to be the Black Men's Group got to be an organizing entity that does its work in an being Black is not enough. Well, we Black Men Group. The Black Men Group got to understand racism at its highest. And you gotta be an anti-racist organizing. If racism takes away humanity, anti-racist can bring your humanity back. So you do your organizing as a Black Men Group. Everything you do has to be with the intention and an anti-race. Now you gotta know what that really means. You say everything about race, everything is about race. But you gotta be strategic when you do it. You got to know how to do that. So that will bring you. Let me give you an example. You remember the character Superman? Remember Superman, the comic? What made Superman?
I'm not that young. I'm aware.
Okay. You remember what made Superman weak?
Kryptonite.
There's something called kryptonite. It threw on him, he got weak. When you work inside an institution and you're only trying to make changes with skills and tools, the institution will use those skills and tools better than you can use them, because those skills and tools will become like nail and hammers. So you got to bring humanity into an institution, because institutions don't like humanity. And then they become more vulnerable where you can deal with them. But if you're trying to fight an institution with skills and tools and all that stuff, they'll eat that up. And even a policy, if it's not an anti-racist policy, I got a good policy, we got a good policy, they're gonna do that policy. If you can't watch that policy and implement it with the community, then the system gonna take that good policy and use it to their advantage, straight up. Because we think if we get a good policy, now we got good stuff for the community. It shit don't work like that. They're gonna use that. System ain't doing nothing good for nobody. I mean, it's they make their money off the community. But that's why the community must be involved. So I don't, but organizing to me is anti-racist, or organizing. What I mean by anti-racist, organizing with principles. And what I mean by that, the principles are you must understand racism. You must understand culture. Now you define culture. Culture defined as a way of life. You must understand networking, but you got to build a net that works. You must understand leadership development, and with leadership development, you must have accountability. Don't develop no leaders and you can't get accountable, because the leader will turn on you. You must understand gatekeeping, the concept of gatekeeping. When you go within an institution to work, they're going to use you as a gatekeeper, which means they're going to use you to keep their thing in place.
Right.
And you may have a job title, but you're going to be a bureaucrat maintaining the bureaucracy for the powers to be. That's what gatekeepers do. You're going to be keeping that arrangement for them. In other words, they ain't got to whip us no more. They'll hire brother, sister in a position to keep the gate for him. Straight up. You become a gatekeeper. And there's nothing wrong with a gatekeeper unless you're accountable to your community. Because I'm a gatekeeper right now. I'm telling you information about the community, but I'm also involved in the community. I ain't telling you no hypothetical situation. I'm 80 years of age. I'm still involved in the community. So that's how you keep your accountable. So we need to get, but those are the principles that will guide your work when you're organized. If you get off track, look at them principles, it'll put you back on track.
Wow. We'll put that in the chat here for everybody, so that we will commit that to not only memory by hearsay, like, okay, those things sound good, but commit those to practice. So feel free, everybody, copy that down if you need. Wow. Okay, so let's say that someone is like, okay, Ron Chisholm, I agree with all that. We need to involve the community in these decisions, like that happens in the workplace. Yes, I need to partner with other Black people in the workplace and everything. Anti-racist organization, I'm about it, accountability. But listen, brother, I'm just trying to keep my job. Like, I'm trying not to get fired. Like, what if I try to not necessarily, what if I'm trying to climb the ladder and also like break the glass ceiling at the same time by hitting at the, hitting the tree at the roots in my workplace or in other places? Can I do both? Or
yes, you can do all that. First, you got to remember how you got to that glass ceiling. The community is the one got you there. You got qualified, but you could be qualified without the community years ago opening the doors for you to be there. You can't forget, because that's what too many, we forget how we got there. So as long as you don't forget your roots, keep your job, you got to take care of your family. That's understandable. But you can be very strategic in making some changes in increments. You don't have to be a gun who out there carrying a sign and all that. You can do, remember, it's an inside job and an outside job. It's an inside job. We need people in both arenas. You understand? But when you deal with the system inside, you got to have a systemic analysis. Can't no program deal with no institution. You almost got to institutionalize your work. Now, I'm not saying, keep your job, know how to do your work. You can do it. When you're inside, one way you could do good, you can say, look, I can't make too many waves inside, because but you can let me know outside what's going on. So I can make some waves. You can share information with me. And it's like you're not ratting the telling, we're working together, but the community one got you the job. They don't want to open the doors. The institution wasn't hiring no Black people at one point. We have to demonstrate to get Black people in those corporations.
Right.
So you can't ever forget that. Everybody makes money off the poor Black community, but they get left out the price. Now you going up the ladder, like you got the ladder by your damn self. You ain't got, there's somebody that like, if you don't depend back on the community, that glass ceiling gonna break on top of your head and them stairs gonna collapse on you. So, but you should keep your job. You gotta take care of your family. You gotta say lose your job, but you got a responsibility and a duty to look out for another brother and sister strategically, not foolishly. You got a duty and a responsibility, because you didn't get there by yourself. I don't care how good you are, and I don't care how qualified you are, because you could be qualified in this world and you still couldn't get a damn job. We just got to these positions right now. We get, like we've been here all these years. We forget how hard it was. They're young people, but Black men still get dealt with a certain way. It ain't nothing new. They're still being killed. We talk about George Floyd, but there've been so many George Floyds before that and after that. Shit. We talk about Michael Brown and Ferguson. We can go on and we can name the people, man. Brianna, we can name the sisters. No, I know. The brother gotta be, brothers should keep their jobs, and but you're gonna need their community, because the system is not gonna give you the humanity. All they want is their product. All they want you is to produce their product. That's all they want you for. Understand? And when you try to produce their product, you're gonna pay a price for that. You're gonna be real productive for their product, but in the long run you'll get dealt with real bad. But that don't mean you shouldn't go up the ladder. That don't mean you shouldn't get positions. But just like you got a position, they'll take you out their position. You know, and sometimes they put a position with your head like it to your head. That's a position you don't want to be in. Straight up. You
Wow.
know? But anyway, that you know, so no, do your work, man. Get your job. Take it. Got to take care of family. I'm not saying I don't never get indicate nothing like that, you know. But you do have a duty and responsibility to do your work, to help another brother and sister that made a way for you and for all of us, you know.
Yes, sir. And that's going back to that interdependency you were talking about. Like
That's right.
we all literally need each other. No person can do it alone. No one small group or entity can do it alone. It's all hands on deck, working
Why you
from
got a
the
black men's
inside
group?
and outside. Yes, sir.
That's why you got a black men's group. Why
That's
you need
right.
a black men's group? You need a collective of black men. We got some good individual black men, you know. But then if you're not careful, you'll forget about the purpose of the black men's group. And y'all get to be going through the motions because now y'all busy doing a whole lot of other stuff. And y'all might even use the black men as a reference. And some of y'all may be doing that right now. But if you don't understand, you got to give something back from the black men's group. Otherwise, you're diluting the power of the black men's group. And in extra, you will be exploiting the black men's group. You're saying you're black, but now y'all going to other great endeavors, but your foundation was the black men group, and you'll get amnesia.
Hmm.
And that's just
Wow.
graceful to do that. And the black man group will not have this, it'll be just a framework of black man group. It won't have no real substance of blackness in it, except looking like black and with a bunch of figureheads, you know. And you don't want that to happen. You want to make it real. So you got everything you do, every program you work at, you should do it, but bring back to the black man group. If you don't do that, there's something becomes suspect. Something being exploited. If you're doing, I don't care what work you're doing. When you do it, you should give back to the black men's group in any way you think it's important. And because what you're doing, you're taking from it, and that's wrong. That's well, no, I can say a lot about that, but you know. But anyway, I'll just leave it there. I'll leave it at that. You know.
And that's a good plug for the black men's group as well. I know for myself, there's more I could do with it. And then for brothers who are here for the first time, this is your first time at one of our events, or maybe you just heard about what we've done. Maybe you received an invitation from someone. Like, definitely get involved, become a member. Pops, if you could provide a link to our Facebook group so that you all can get involved who are here, especially those for the first time. Like, this is something that we don't want to just duplicate by talking about it, but remembering and then acting upon this and like creating that kind of sustainability, sustaining this power. Last question, then we'll open up the
No,
floor.
say,
Yes, sir.
are y'all recruiting new people in?
Yes, we are recruiting new people.
Okay, is that do you have a comprehensive approach, or is it a piecemeal approach in recruiting? It's from your observation. You know what I'm saying? Or are y'all doing an effective job in bringing people in, or y'all doing it kind of haphazardly? And I'm just asking because we say, yeah, we're doing it, but are you really doing it? And if you're bringing new members in, or you taking the membership and bringing them to leadership, which is a process.
You know what, Father, my name is Maurice McNair, and I'm hoping I'm a new member, and I'm glad to be here. And you have so much knowledge, and you have a wide variety of knowledge base. And I had the pleasure of meeting Brother Brian Carter, and this man was so inspirational to me. And just talking with him and what you were talking about giving back, he was just so inspirational to me and just shared so many things with me. I felt like I had to come here, and I think that when it touches on that, I just me being invited here and just talking to you and for you to understand that what you're saying is being funneled through, because the way that I talked to this brother and the way that he was just so much of a light, the same way that you are, the energy hasn't changed. So I just want to put that out there.
Well, Mr. That's right on target. And just like you said that, Brother Maurice, we got to make sure that's being said consistently. Whoever comes in there, because everybody got to be like, like Brother Brian, because everybody got to have that same, and they may be doing it. If that happens, then you're off fulfilling. And it's like Brother Maurice said, and once he get enough and get a good feel about what's going on, he's got a responsibility and a duty to bring another brother in or sister, well, brothers primarily. You
That's
know,
right, Father.
because
That's
he
right.
might get in and say, I'm in. You know, otherwise it becomes a club, it becomes a clique, and it got to be more than that. Everybody got to bring brothers, and then when they get in, they got to know what this is really about. What's the history of it? You know, where y'all going? What's the vision? What is y'all vision? What y'all trying to do? Well, we just want to help people. Are you making them dependent on Black Men Group? Dependence is not all bad, but you can't get people sucked on that too much. You got to know how to get off it. You know what I'm talking about.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Yeah. So I don't know how you time it, because I got my grandson is graduating from the University of Mississippi tomorrow, and I'm driving up to Hattiesburg in a few minutes with my wife, because I want to be there in the morning for his graduation. But and I'm excited about going up there. But any question from anybody? Any question from anybody before I have to get on the way myself, man?
Feel free to.
Malachi, could I jump in real quick?
I was about to say, whether it's in the chat or if you want to unmute yourself, go ahead.
So let me just say, gentlemen that are on the call, I don't know all of you, you know what I'm saying? Ron is a super powerhouse of knowledge. And if I could just say the privilege that each one of you on here, like he's a knowledge pimp. Like, do you understand the conversation coming from his head to keep up with him? Like, the man can motivate you for real. And I don't mean it in a negative way. Like, the information that he's running to you is real. And it's so deep that a lot of times he makes a statement and he goes to another statement. You still on that other statement saying, oh, how relative is the other statement. The man has a conversation of flowness, but it's facts. And it's all tied into a very systematic system. You got to spend a lot of time to Ron to really grasp everything that he's saying. I mean, he's really that deep. And I love Ron. I want to say to each and every one of you gentlemen, especially some of you that just joined that kind of missed this knowledge. You need to spend time, get involved, get other opportunities to engage with Ron. The work that Brian is trying to do to bring this to Indianapolis and keep it going under the stress and strains of everybody else's schedule. Being a founding brother that he is as well. And Malachi, brother, power to you. I appreciate you. You being your dad's right-hand man and another extension of your father. I will say that I appreciate your moderation tonight and how you kept the conversation on point. I love your extension of your father, and that's what it's about, the development of generation. As Ron said, if something happens to Brian Carter tomorrow, I fully believe that Malachi will handle business and make sure that things are in flow. And so that's what it is. Is this an organization or is this a movement? This is a movement, gentlemen. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, if you're on this call, if you're on these contacts, if you come to these events, I am only involved to make it happen. Judge Gaither was in and out of here, but he's like me. We do a lot of heavy work on the background. When Brian calls me or anybody on here makes requests, it gets done to the best of my ability. Information gets filled out, it gets knowledge. I just want to end it by saying the real change, I'm repeating what Ron said, real change comes from an inside job. Understand me, the inside job, that's the secret that the white people have been doing for 100 years. Go get that job, but don't forget about it. Don't go, assimilating and forgetting what you got there. The purpose of being there is doing real damage. Be a real bomb, you know what I'm saying? Be a real bomb. Be a strategic weapon. Go into a location to get something done for real. You understand me? Don't play around with your job. If your job doesn't allow you to do that, then make your other time, your organizing time, your volunteer time, damage in the community. Or you just playing a game. These young men and women need our help. And if you don't do some real damage, then we're not gonna get it done. So I love you, Ron. I love you, Ron, and Brian and Malachi. I appreciate y'all.
Brother, thank you, brother. Greg, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Ron. Doing good.
Greg.
Yeah,
Glad to see you, man.
Glad you made it back safe and sound, man. I'm
Greg,
I'm about to
hey,
get on.
Greg, I didn't even see you pop in, brother.
No problem.
Talk to us, Greg. Talk to us, Greg.
I don't have to say anything. Got the Godfather Ron Chisolm on there. I know everything's said and done. Everybody's brains on overload.
Yeah. I'm
You know
glad,
the
Ray, I'm
brother.
so glad. I'm trying to get to I'm gonna try to get to Indianapolis, man. Cause I used to tell my you showed me around the community, man, and I learned so much rolling with you when I get to Indianapolis, you know, and I learned so much. But my grandson is graduating tomorrow, and I'm gonna run out to Mississippi, my wife and I. But I want to say these two things is that to Brian and the team, I would think y'all ought to find a way to have a recruiting drive, and everybody must participate with no exceptions, including Brother Gator. You know, and they got to put time on their calendar. But we can't no drive by shit. We ain't got but a minute kind of stuff. We got to take time because your strength is in black men numbers. And when you get them, you got to develop them. Don't just have confused. If they're confused, you help to get them to grow. That's number one. It shouldn't be no one little committee doing that shit, because that's what we do at a recruiting committee. Everybody got a responsibility to bring people in and not to rely on one or two people. And then when they get them, you got to know to nurture them. Second, I hope that at some point you'll do plan at your busy schedule or 1 day setting that we can do a training, because black men got to understand racism, and being black, that's a good thing to have, but we got to know how to do what we're doing. The reason we got together because the way black men has been done by history of racism in this country, and the racist shit goes on in Indianapolis. That's why we came together with black men. We're like, why the hell we need a black men's group? Because the way black men have been picked off, been killed, and race, been incarcerated, on and on and on. And not only black men, the families, everybody, the children. And your kids are still at stake right now while we having this black men discussion. You don't know what's going on with the children. And we'll have a training for them. And there was one other thing about the recruiting. It was a third thing, but I skipped my mind. But and anything I can do to be helpful with it, because with the recruiting, I mean, we got to use all the people we can, you know. But I don't know. I just think recruiting and bringing people in and really have more discussion about organizing, because y'all are an organizing group, you know. And but anyway, I can stop here. Any other question before I get on from anybody?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
How y'all doing? I'm Spears. I'm his cousin. I'm the family cousin. But
yes.
One thing I feel we missing right now is a timeline. We don't have a timeline of what occurred and how we got here where we are. And I feel people shy away from it. Like, you could tell people about COINTELPRO and break it down, but they won't take the time to go look and see, like, this was done on purpose. Like, we was destroyed inside out. Like, you can look up the crack era. The CIA brought the crack in. It's documented. You could Google Gary Webb. Like, it's so many points of history. It's just putting the timeline to it and breaking it down to the people to understand, because not everybody gonna gravitate to the movement, because it's regardless of what they'll look at it as militant. Like, that's where we at. Like, it's a post going around, a meme about Kendrick Lamar music not being. It was a woman that said it. She said, "I like my shoot 'em up, bang bang music." Like, that's the mentality that we have. We gotta understand that. You know what I mean? Us talking about it and everything is like, all right, cool, but it's about breaking it down. I'm I went through Israel for information, but it's deeper than that. It's deeper than what you were part of. It's understanding how we got here, and it started way back. I mean, forget about it. Like, you can go back into all the massacres across the country. Like, that's how deep it is. It's not segregated to a particular, not even just America. It's a global thing, and it's that what it is. They did it systematically globally. So we gotta get to the timeline of how they broke us down. Like, I can tell you, like, in the 60s, when we was doing the civil rights movement, that's where they started the feminists, just to break up the family, to take the woman away. Like, it's a whole lot that needs to be spoken about and broken down to individuals. And like I said, people wouldn't gravitate to it just because it's not the norm. And it's true, documented throughout.
All right, my brother. Look, we you know, you having this history is gonna be crucial. And if we do a setting one day, we're gonna put some historical context to it, but we got to get some people in to talk to. see, because many of us can't get folks in, you know, because once we get them in there, we can start informing them of that historical, you know, you see the timeline and all of that. We can give that timeline. Ain't no, and we can't just talk about it. You're right. Because this discussion about how do we organize, how do we develop leadership, that's what we're talking about. But most of us can't get 3 people together. And what's so unique about the Black
Nah,
Man's
you're
Group?
right, but
That's what? Say it again, bro. Your screen went dead.
I think he's having some service issue.
Yeah.
I love to talk. I love to see exactly what he's saying because when we say we're all talking, you're right, we're all talking, you know, but we got to bring some people in. Otherwise, we talk to ourselves, and that gets old after a while. Everybody ain't got a Black man groups to talk to. We got to start bringing people in. You know, we can talk about what happened before the end of time. But if talking that history, does not get us to do some effective work, it's just rhetoric, straight up.
Okay, okay.
Any other comment?
Go ahead, Chris. What was you going to wrap it up, Chris, and then Maurice jump in.
Okay.
All right, cool. Absolutely. I understand. Like, yeah. Huh?
Go ahead.
The
thing is, you gotta get.
We're on the same page, bro.
You gotta get. Yeah, we're not on the. Definitely, we're on the same page. But like, what is the people gonna gravitate to?
Well, look, bro, you and I have this discussion is good, but if we're on the same page, then we need to turn it to the next page. Then we're on the same page. Anybody else want to add something?
Yeah, Father Chisolm. Okay, so when we talk about the youth, the direction of the youth, where we're moving toward in this day and time, you've been around for some time, and I want to ask you, at what age did you start becoming conscious and saying that you had to be a part of this movement to help Black people? And how did you make that connection? How did you know?
Yeah, but the first thing I would say, Brother Maurice, is that I had a job in New Orleans. I worked in a janitorial at a hospital, and then I got elevated on what they call civil service. You get it, you know. I don't have the academic education. Went to 12th grade, but I went to this hospital, and under the state, they'll tell you it's called civil service. You can go to like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I got to another position, and they moved me over to another building where they did research at. And in that research center, I'm old enough to know, wasn't no Black people in any key position there. So I used to walk around and just say, why don't I have Black people in this position, that position? I just would say that. Then I met another brother that was there, and him and I would go to lunch today in a lunch at the cafeteria, and we would talk about, we didn't see Black people in a position. So we would go to our supervisor, and then we got into trouble. Well, so we were making a lot of noise inside the building till at some point we knew they was gonna fire us, let us go. And at that time I was about 18 and about 19. And so when they let us go, there's a neighborhood in, if you ever get to New Orleans, him and I decided, you know, if nobody gonna let us say our voice, we started a nonprofit. We didn't know what we were doing. We just said we're gonna start an organization. We didn't know about a 501c3 and all that stuff. We just wanted to get people together. So we started in this area in New Orleans, and we got a group of folks in the community, the grassroots community. A lot of brothers during the time, it wasn't crack, it was heroin. And a lot of brothers who was on heroin, they became part of our organization, and they opened up doors in that community that we couldn't even go in.
Right.
And they became our board members. So through trial and error, Maurice, you know, went to jail. Every time there'd be an issue, we think of different ways to fight the system. We didn't know what we were doing. We had no money. And after a while, we started getting publicity on the news. People would come out, the local news. Then we got to be known around the city. And then people would call us, say, man, we got a problem up in this other part of town. Can you come? Mm-hmm. And that side spearheaded. But after about 10 years of that, Marie, what I realized, I got to get better because I was doing it because I love people, but I got to know how to do my job as an organizer. I didn't know I was an organizer. So I started going to training schools to learn how to be an effective organizer for change and quit running my head all the time. And I did that for about a year. Because again, I didn't have the education, but I had a lot of practical experience. And then after that, I started getting calls from even out of town, people that read about the work that I was doing. Then I realized racism was a big issue. That's when I realized I got to learn more. Nobody was teaching it at the time. They were teaching about diversity, but they weren't teaching them how to deal with racism. And that's when I began to me and another brother. He's transitioned. We started the institute in 1980. We've been together for 43 years. We trained over 1 million some people all over the world in about 8 countries. And I retired in March. But the reason why I do this work primarily is to help people to know how to make, not just talk a lot of talk. And what let me know when people take care of business, when they know how to bring people in. That's why the black man is, because you got a group of brothers together. More people can't get 3 people together.
Yes, sir.
And that's why I don't give a lot of energy. I don't give energy unless people are willing to talk about how to reach that community. Because I can have dialogue. It's like talking about religion. Can't nobody win with that. So I don't put a lot of energy there. I just don't believe in debating and arguing because it don't. I used to do that for a while. You don't win like that. So I'm spending my time right now, and I got indicators. I got people that I work with who are leaders all over this country. So I know I'm not just talking about. And I'm as Eddie, I still involved in my community on a daily basis, and I'm excited about it. I got a lot of hope as an organizer. I don't know if that answers some of it, but I started on the job, bro, and trial and error, basically what it was, and I know I'm effective at it. For me, it's all about people, Any other comment?
We got one sister in the group, Sister Angie. You want to jump in from
Please,
a sister perspective?
please, Sister Angie.
Maybe she jumped off.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
here we go. Here we go.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I did have a question for you. Thank you for the invite of information, but I did have a question. I was wondering, back to the conversation with systemic racism and defining that, and as far as power and tying it into the government being head of systemic racism and the powers that be, how do you feel about voting when it comes to choosing one side or the other, when it comes to fighting racism? And we're putting people in place, and I understand that it doesn't matter who is in place, they have been set up for a reason, but why are we giving our vote one way or another when systemic racism is embedded within the government and how they've operated in order to keep us down? What do you think about voting versus coding your vote?
Sister Angie, I think voting is important because of the history, what it took to get the vote. That's important. I know many people, how they did our community in order to vote, they would make them count the number of jelly beans, all that kind of stuff, crazy stuff. So I knew that the death would happen to our people. So I do it for that reason. I don't care about I've been campaign manager for people and all that stuff. And I believe that once you vote and get somebody in office, the difficulty is that once you do that, then once we get them elected, especially somebody we like, even grassroots people, we so happy we got them in there, then we pray that they do right. What we have to understand, you can't get somebody elected and put them in the system to represent us, because the system you put them in is not a do-right system. And most people get elected, I don't care if they're black, white, Latino, do not have a systemic, they just want to be in charge, they're egos. So I don't put a lot of times in electoral. I did at one point. I spend most of my time organizing community. I don't tell nobody not to vote because I know how people die for the vote. But I don't spend my life doing a lot of it. I tell people it's important that we put somebody in key positions, but it's not just voting registration, it's voting education. So when I do together, I educate people about the history of the voting and how to use voting as a way to get to our community. That's just an issue to me. and everything I do around issues, voting, housing, health, is to use that to reach my community and lift them up and wake them up. And what I found, Sister Angela, is I traveled for the last 40 some years in a Black community. As much as we talk about fighting a man and all that kind of stuff, I'm telling you that we do not have a systemic analysis. We operate out of a needs analysis, and needs are important. But when people do, people develop programs to fix our community. What they're doing, they're trying to fix our behavior. But the reason why we have behavior, because the system kicks us in the butt. So when you get kicked in the butt, you're gonna have a behavior problem. But the system see, I tell people right now, let's develop a program. If you really want to make a good change, let's develop a program to fix the system, because the system's the one that's broke. But people ain't gonna do that. Everybody is geared to develop a program for people, and all they're trying to do is develop a program to deal with people's behavior. That's never gonna work. So I would just say, no, I think people should vote, but I don't try to sway people about politics. The Democrat and Republican to me are similar, because and they're similar in so many different ways. We talk about, well, the Democrats have a history of doing this, but they got a history of perpetuating racism. When you look at the years of the Democrats in the South, because I'm from the South, so I know that for a fact. You know what I'm saying? So it gets, you get the better, the evil. Then we say, now we get our Black people in there. And then we get the Black in there and they get amnesia. But the problem with when we get Black elected official, what systemic stuff is done has created a sickness in our, so when you get people elected, Black, brown, whoever it may be, they were, I've seen that happen. I've been around when they had no white police officers, no Black ones. And when the Black ones got on board, they did more damage than the white police because of the sickness in us. So we were mimicking from the white people because we want to be in the in crowd with the white people. Right. And if you get a brother, sister get elected and they get in office, they want to be just like the white elected officials, because we're dealing with a pathology, a sickness. That's what system create. They don't only create injustice, they create a sickness. So we've done some work with elected officials because they think because they're elected, they know it. They're confused as hell. And we think because they're grassroots, that's the real people. We got some confused grassroots people too that we need to inform. So I don't know. I went all the way around the bush, just Anna, but I don't know if I answered. But I went all the way around the bush with that,
Yes, you did. Thank you. Yes, you did.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, Ron, we're gonna let you get to your thing, man. Family is so important, and we are so grateful. And you're right. This cannot just be something that we just pop in and do as some kind of shiny trophy. This has to be our tattoo. This has to be what we are about foundationally, because everything springboards off of that. That's what the Black Man Group got it started. It springboards off of undoing racism, understanding systemic racism, not being negative gatekeepers, understanding that we need to have system analysis related to working and helping the people. And that has to be on our tongues. So we definitely need to get you here, preferably in person, that we can sit at your feet and just repeat and learn this. This is the alphabet. We must learn. So go ahead.
Brian, I want to say, well, see, what I'm going to be doing with the group, I'm not going to be talking to you of something. See, you know this already. All I'm doing is taking what we call the Socratic approach. I'm putting out Black men experiences, stuff that you live every day. Yeah. That we live every day. I'm pulling it out and putting it in chronological order. Because if it ain't right, you can let me know. So I'm not giving you a lot of information. I'm giving information, but it's really experiences that you know already. I'm just pulling it out and putting it in order. That's all I'm doing. Putting it in chronological, because you know it like 1938. I'm just putting it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all I'm really doing. This last piece is that every person part of the Black Men Group got a responsibility to, they just can't ride the wave of the Black Men Group. They ought to be doing something. If they don't, we ought to put them on the shelf for a while till they get their act together. They can't just say I'm part of a Black Men's Group and ain't put nothing back into it. That's foolishness, man.
You're right.
That ain't no Black Men's Group. They're riding the wave because, and we get mad at white folks. We're doing some similar stuff. It's like leeching. It ain't no heavy thing. I don't care if you take but a 5 minutes in a month to do something.
That's right.
It ought to be accountable. You can't say I'm a black man, I'm a member. You know, you got to be a member. You got to go from membership to leadership,
Yes,
whatever
sir.
that might mean. So
Yes, sir.
I just say that to you, and I'm saying strongly. You know, too much rhetoric goes on and not enough work, and you ought to find it out, and then you ought to make a decision. Tell folks to do something else that they might be happy about. So, Greg, I'm gonna give you a call, Greg, a little later on. I'm on my way to Mississippi. See how you're making out. All right.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
thank y'all for allowing me to be a part of it. Thank you,
Thank
Sister
you
Anna, for being
again.
on the Sister Owen, and thank you for the question, and Brother Maurice and Brother Spears, and I didn't hear from Brother Ricky,
Thank
but
you,
Brother
Father.
Ricky,
Thank you,
Brother Rick, I
Father.
saw your body language, and your body language was good, and Brother Tillis, and good to see you, and thank all of y'all for being a part of this. Okay.
Absolutely. And guys, this is being recorded. Thank you, Ryan. This is being recorded. So for the homies that missed it, for the people that missed it, you can say as your action piece, hey, it's on the Black Man's Group YouTube page. Here's the link. Here's the link. Get the knowledge and the understanding of how we're going. So we're gonna go out with our PowerPoint piece, and you know that you are a leader. Life's persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? Are you magnetic? Are you drawn to people? Are people drawn to you? You can't lead people if you don't love people. You can't save the people if you don't serve the people. Brother Cornell West, all right? Get organized and you will compel the world to respect you. Thank you again. Next week. Same login, same everything, y'all. We're going to be here talking about how the intergeneration of brotherhood can chop it up and make an impact as a united front. All right. And then the last week, we will be talking about the money, Black Power, Black Dollar. All right. So thank you all again. We're going to do our recruitment commercial, and then we are out. Somewhere along the line, there should be a button to push. I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, because we all tired of looking at that picture now.
Hey, you always got to say something on that recording, boy. You know what I mean? Anyway, we ain't even gonna do it. We ain't gonna worry about it. You know what I'm saying? We know we the Black Man's Group, and we know how to get in touch. All right, Raphael, God bless you, man. Thank you for
God bless
jumping
you,
on,
brother.
man.
God bless you, brother, man. I appreciate y'all, brothers, man. Y'all make a big impact on my life out here in Indiana, man. I appreciate y'all.
Right on, man. Right on. And Spears, man, keep holding it down in the city. Keep holding it down in the city out there, man.
Definitely appreciate it.
All right, man. All right. So we will see y'all, and God bless. All right.
God bless.
All right.